Welcome back to the Lead Lamp Podcast. This week we have Jacqueline Ferentinos from Bagel Boutique, and we're excited. So a lot of people probably know your name in the area just from being involved in a lot of different businesses locally and just being out there in the community. And now you have a new one you're popping up with.
Yes.
And so I want to learn about the history of, the Valley Bistro and a couple other ones, but I really want to know about Bagel Boutique. So let's kick it off with that and give us a little bit of an intro of yourself, and we'll just kind of let it roll from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I am very excited about this new venture that my husband and I are embarking on. Bagel Boutique was an idea that we've had, for a few years. And we have this basically like a book of ideas and concepts that we kind of keep. And, when things like locations or properties, are on sale and go for sale, we like to kind of say, this would be a great location for. And so my husband is from New York, born in New York, raised in North Jersey.
Okay.
And from a child up until, every year we visit the Jersey Shore. So our love for New York bagels is strong.
Is it different than what you have around here?
It's different. And, people say, well, what is it? And the running joke is always the water.
Yeah,
but I really do.
It's the water.
I mean, there is something to it. There are some local restaurateurs that actually will go and get water from New Jersey or New York. It's it's a real thing.
Huh.
And so coming off of owning a breakfast place, which is something I grew up in and I can touch on in a little bit later. We were like, we want to do something different. And we're like, let's do bagels. There really isn't, there's one other really well-known bagel.
Kind of the legacy brand for the bagels in the area. But they don't, they can't, there's a lot of people who eat bagels. So
and
wide open.
And the owner's great, and what they offer is great. And I've been a customer for many years there. And when we sold Valley Bistro back in September, we were like, this is, I think, the perfect concept. So we were doing a lot of research, and we were like, we really want to offer New York dough.
Okay.
How can we make that happen? And so originally we really were thinking about, we were doing a lot of research, contacting a lot of, like wholesalers, even small businesses that were offering their bagels, but they were frozen. Okay. So the one thing that we really stand behind is like what we offer is fresh and homemade. And so we were still kind of saying like, you know what, there's still New York bagels, let's offer them.
So what's New York dough versus like
I really think it's like the prep of the dough, the water, they're boiled and then, like proofed, boiled and baked.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so there's always the question, does a New York bagel get toasted or untoasted?
I don't know.
Right?
I would toast it.
I would toast it. Yeah. We would toast it. But if it's coming fresh out of the oven, the exterior is already toasted, warm. So do you really have to? I think it's a preference.
Depends, yeah. If it's coming out of the oven warm, I'm probably not going to toast it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
is it going to be, and maybe we're jumping ahead. Yeah. So you're going to offer like the fresh warm bagels right there. Almost. Yeah. Don't get mad at me for thinking it's similar to this, but is it like the Krispy Kreme where it's like the warm donuts are coming out, but you're going to have bagels basically like on demand? Yeah. So initially,
until we're up and running for, I would say, a couple of weeks, because there's always like growing pains, no matter how many times you've done the opening of a restaurant. There's always something. We don't know what our par levels are going to be, but the idea is to get in there early and make fresh bagels every day.
Okay.
And so after doing our research, we met this gentleman who really loved the concept that, we were creating. And he was like, I can offer the dough. And they don't have to be frozen bagels. And we were like, this is perfect. And there was such a great variety, because the one thing I like to do as a restaurateur in the area is I want to think outside of the box.
Be unique.
I want to be different. Like if I'm going to be a breakfast restaurant, I want to be the best breakfast restaurant. If I'm going to open a bagel shop, I want to be the best bagel shop, right? So After talking to him, doing some research, going on site, seeing the equipment they use, their process, we ended up getting this really awesome piece of equipment, which is the oven that they use.
Okay.
And we're like, this is going to be great. So now...
And it's specific for what you need exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it, boils. And, well, first you proof. You proof your dough.
Okay.
And then you boil it, and then you bake them. So they have that, crispy exterior, gooey inside. And so the other question is, when you make a sandwich or when you put your schmear on, or cream cheese, as a lot of our locals will say, do you take out the center pieces, or do you just layer on? So that's another preference. A New York thing.
You mean like they hollow the bagel?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
that's new to me.
Yeah.
I just smear it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so we'll have a variety of bagels, your basic bagels, but then we're going to have some really cool ones.
Are you going to also offer like the New York style or like almost introduce people to that in the area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The way that they, make the sandwiches. And it's kind of what we did at our previous restaurant because my husband is, from that area. Our sandwiches are big.
Yeah.
Right. So our portions are big. Like we want
Which is not just for that style, but it's great.
Yeah.
I think when we've been to some of your old places too before you sold them. And when you get your food there, like you feel, you feel like you got your money's worth, and B, you can tell it's a different style, and it's a New York sandwich or it's a bigger deli sandwich.
Yeah, so I think part of that is like our backgrounds. My husband and I both, grew up in Greek families. Mm-hmm. You ate everything. You didn't leave anything, and the portions were always big, right? So we want people to come in and feel like they're getting what they paid for. And we want to fill their bellies. We want you to leave with a takeout box,
If you're buying a $15 lunch, you at least want to be...
Yeah.
Because everything's expensive now, but at least you can feel satisfied leaving.
And I think sometimes, we're super critical when we go out to other establishments and other restaurants, especially chains where you're paying for a breakfast sandwich and it's like so tiny and it's made in one of those like quick microwave
like
convection. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, how do you eat egg out of that? Right.
It's all rubbery. And
so it's all rubbery. So along with the variety of bagels and the unique flavors we will have, we'll do a variety of cream cheeses that we will be making all in-house. We'll probably also do like a bagel of the month, a schmear of the month type thing. And I've been getting the question constantly, will you offer gluten-free? Will you offer vegan? Gluten-free, yes. Are we a certified gluten-free establishment? No.
It's probably hard.
It's hard.
Yeah. Especially for a baker. Like if you're baking anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we can't necessarily guarantee that there's no cross-contamination, but the one thing that we did learn at our previous restaurant was that we always ask, is it a preference or is it an allergy? Right. And we take all the proper steps, using a designated toaster, changing your cutting boards. And
I think people now that are not just a preference, but people that are sensitive to it from an allergy perspective, I think they know too, like, okay, that place, there may be a mix.
Right.
So I'm going to just either prepare for that or I'm going to go and tell them or I'm just going to avoid that.
Yeah, so we've gotten pretty good at doing that. And the other question is vegan. So our bagels are vegan. Okay. Now, as far as vegan cream cheese goes, it's not something we've explored. That doesn't mean it's not something that we're open to. We may perhaps bring in a vegan cream cheese until we get comfortable being able to make it from scratch. Yeah. So, we're open.
So you said your bagels are all vegan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no egg in them?
No.
Huh. Is there traditionally not egg in bagels? No. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot about, more than I ever thought I would about bagels today.
Well,
but that's good.
Yeah, it's part of the journey. It's for us, I think part of our success has always been researching.
Okay.
And we always ask, like we're always asked, how do you come up with the specials you come up with and the combinations that you come up with? Well, there's a few things. One, we're just foodies, right? We love, it's what we do. And so I research all the time and trends are always changing. another thing that's really trending right now are pickles. I am a lover of pickles. I love them. My kids love them.
This is completely like off the rails.
Yeah.
But we just sold beef sticks for a fundraiser for my daughter's sports, and the pickle flavor meat sticks were in there, and they went crazy. Like, I know. So there is there's like
pickle popcorn, pickle chips, pickle pretzels.
They're good though.
Yeah. But do you like spears or do you like whole pickles?
I'd rather just have a whole pickle.
Yeah. So the one thing I've been experimenting with is like a pickle sandwich.
Like the outside.
It's it's like, think of a hot dog. So like a
Kara's
huge pickle. Kara, I'm telling you, my mouth is watering thinking about it. And then, we have a lot of friends that are always like, oh, make us something. And I'm like, oh, let's trial this. Mm-hmm. So 2 days ago, we had come up with, we were working with Cisco, who's one of our food purveyors. Mm-hmm. And one of the chefs there was trying to give us ideas. And so we were creating 16 different cream cheeses and that's just fun. Crazy things. Yeah. And that's what's awesome about what we do.
You feel like a scientist.
Yeah. And you think of ingredients that would never really go well together otherwise, and you put them together and just
sometimes they work, and sometimes you're like, that was awful. So we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but for a long time when I was growing up, my family had family business in the food industry. Yeah. But I remember my dad, so at the deli, I don't know if you recall or not, but at the West Shore Farmers Market, we had Wiley's Deli. Yeah. And there was a big sandwich board, like big poster boards along the back of the counter, and it was all sandwiches. And I don't remember the quantity that we had at that point, but it had to be over 60 some sandwiches. Yeah. But my dad would do the same thing that you guys are doing, where I remember as a kid, he would just be grabbing different ingredients, throwing sandwiches together, and they made those big, like, belly buster sandwiches where you eat them in your stuff. But same deal, like, you're staying exciting and you're staying relevant for your customers. It's exciting for your customers too, because they're thinking, well, what are they going to do next?
What's next?
Yeah, I'm excited to try the new thing. Yeah. It might not work, but sometimes it's a hit too, and it sticks for a while. So
it's the constant running joke of my husband and I in the battle between us, where I create these multi-step sandwiches, and he always says, "This is great, but are you the one during a rush having to finish the sandwich with 5 different steps after you've assembled it," right? Because part of what I am passionate about is like all the finishing touches, right? I don't want to just hand you a sloppy sandwich. It's the presentation of it. It's the presentation. I want it to look good, and everything right now is social media. Mm-hmm. So it's free advertisement. People want to take, pictures of their food and post it. And so I want it to look good. And
you can wow them. They can wow their friends.
Exactly.
Now you just got how many more eyeballs on your brand?
Absolutely. I mean, the world of social media right now is everything. It really is. But along with that, I want my customers, from the second they drive up to my business, it's a whole feeling or a whole vibe. So from the second that you're parking, to walking in the door, to being greeted, to ordering, to waiting to your food, to using the bathroom, those are all to me, the design of that is everything.
It layers on different parts of the experience.
Absolutely.
So let's get back into Bagel Boutique.
Yeah.
Let's tell them where you're located, give them the details on where they can find you, and then we'll jump into some other history on you.
So Bagel Boutique, our first location, which I'll get into, our second one, is 6581 Carlisle Pike. Mm-hmm. So if you are heading up towards Cumberland Valley High School, there's a little center island there. There's a gas station, and then there was a restaurant.
Was the little Italian restaurant there?
So that is up.
Okay,
that's the last one.
Farther up. Okay.
Yeah, so we're kind of in the middle, right before the row of homes that are there. Mm-hmm. That building, I've come to learn the history of it, was originally a drive-through. Okay. So it was very, very small. Yeah. And, the Carlisle Pike wasn't at all what it is now.
No, I remember whenever we were kids, it was half as far out as where it is.
Yeah. And
it ended before you got to Walmart.
Yes. And so then it was, convenience stores, and then it was an ice cream shop, and then pizza shops, and then there were a few Indian restaurants. Mm-hmm. And we live off of Rich Valley. So we drove by that every day. Yeah. And my husband was always so intrigued by that location. And I just looked at it and I was like, it needs a lot of work. And I think the location is great. However, we have been known, it's kind of our thing, that we go into places that have either had businesses fail prior to us coming on, or the location might not be the best, or the building needs a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And we will take it, put our literally blood, sweat, and tears into it, flip it, create this business and then flip it. That is not our plan for this. We do want to, hunker down. Okay. I think of all the concepts we have created, this is by far, I think, my favorite and our best.
It's a fun concept too. Yeah. So it's not, obviously you were involved with Valley Bistro and other things, but those were great establishments. They still are. And it's not like anything was wrong about it, but this is kind of like a little less restrictive, I think.
Yeah.
You can just be wild. I don't want to speak for you, but like, I feel like this brand, even just by looking at it, you get to have a lot more creativity with it too.
It is. It's definitely something that, things have changed. Well, first because of COVID, mm-hmm. right? But as I mentioned before, trends are always changing. We are in an area where it's very much family oriented. Mm-hmm. And I have 3 kids of my own. So I know, they're all very heavily involved in sports and what that entails. And as parents, we have the pressure of, making sure that, is dinner ready? Right. Is everything ready? Because as soon as they get home, we're off to, practice. Oh, yeah. And then we're not getting home till 9:00. So we want to be able to be a place where people can say, oh, I can grab something that's, you have your healthy options. Mm-hmm. You also have your not so healthy options. But know that when you get it from us, it is fresh, mm-hmm. top quality ingredients. Real ingredients made with love. I mean, I am not going to serve anything that I wouldn't serve to myself or my children.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's nice. You have complete control over that.
Yeah. So that's the location. It's a great location. It's close to the school. There's a lot of businesses there. Mm-hmm. The building, and we have done a lot, like I mentioned, of places that needed a lot of work. But I think I walked into this one and I cried. I was like, oh my gosh,
let's talk about that for a second. So I know what the building looked like, and you had your work cut out for you whenever you guys walked into that. But let's walk through that. So what did you guys do to flip it, essentially?
So originally we were supposed to be on a different site, a different location, and we had some struggles with the township, and we saw that this business was slowly dying, the previous business. Mm. And because we had been working with the township on this other property, my husband said, hey, is there any way I can get the information of who owns this? Mm-hmm. And he happened to call the number, and the daughter called back and said, my parents are, older now. One is in assisted living. You actually called it a really great time. We're trying to downsize their portfolio. They had a lot of properties, and, I'll talk to them and see. The current tenants, are leaving. They were not, successful, unfortunately. And we'll get back to you. And that was in September. And every day my husband was like, I need that place. We just
is eating at them.
Yeah. It's you drive by it every day. So when you have something in your mind and you see the vision, sometimes other people don't. Mm-hmm. For example, the previous restaurant we were at, when we told our family members that they were like, are you crazy? That location, the turn in, I mean, to this day, we're haunted by that turn in. So
you're talking about at Valley?
Yeah.
Yeah. But people found their way in.
You create something good, they're going to come, right? Despite that. And we put a lot of money into that location, trying to make it the best we could make it. So does it have the best turn in? No. But was it good enough to deal with, to come?
It was packed every time I would go there for lunch.
So she ended up calling us back, and she was like, yeah, let's move forward. So my husband got the key. He was in there before I was. Of course, didn't mention the state of it because I had not been in there for years.
Just let you walk into it.
And I walked in and the roof was leaking. It was raining. There was literally water dripping down. They had a very low ceiling. I'm excited for, the social media that I'll create or the reel that I'll create of the before and after.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked around and I, for once, was like, I just don't think this is going to work. And he was like, no, babe, you're good. You're good at the design. Like, just sit here. And I did. I think I cried. I was like, I don't know. And of course, everyone was like, what are you guys going to do there? That place is like, you have to do like a lot of work. And we just started demo right away. And then as the walls came down and the ceiling, the lowered ceiling came down, I just started.
You took it all down to the bones.
Literally, like everything aside from the studs is new. HVAC, electrical, plumbing, drywall, floors, all new equipment. The parking lot. I don't think the parking lot had been repaved in 40 years. I mean, it was literally crumbling. Yeah. So,
but now you have now you're ready.
Now we're ready.
You have a new sparkling new to you guys place. And I mean, essentially it's new.
Yeah.
Everything but the studs.
So people say, social media and those groups that people make comments.
Yeah.
I think 99% of what I've read so far is that everybody is very excited. There's been some articles written that we didn't know about, and they said Valley Bistro owners, and I was like, well, I contacted them former.
Yeah.
When we sold Valley Bistro, it really wasn't something that we told a lot of people.
Right.
So even to this day, they're like, you don't know Valley Bistro anymore. So there have been some articles written, and so I've been reading things, and people seem very excited. Of course, you have, one or two people that say.
You can't read all those comments.
Yeah. And I've learned that. That is something along this journey that I have learned. Pink lines in the parking lot. I'm like, genius. Actually, that wasn't even my idea. That was my husband's idea. And it just got people talking.
Yeah.
And our logo is pink. So we have pink, sporadically throughout the restaurant, but it's genius. It's awesome. It looks really good.
Yeah. And I saw that when we were driving over to Search Dental.
Yeah.
And I noticed that just the other day.
Yeah.
Like it's smart too, because it's eye catching. It's just a pattern interrupt.
Yeah. My husband and I love black and white. Everything we do is black and white. So I wanted to bring a different concept. And obviously I wanted something totally different than what we've done before. So that was a comment. Another one was saying like, you ruined the historic area. I'm like, from what it was to what it is.
You helped it.
It looks great. And then somebody said something about the name. And I was like, I just wanted like something that was, emphasize what we're doing, which is the main thing is bagels. But we're still going to have salads and sandwiches and, stuff like that. It's going to be a deli, some great sides.
The same could be said about the other bagel place.
Yeah.
That was their name forever.
Yeah.
And they do sandwiches and lunches.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But, you always have, and you're never going to make everyone happy. Nope. And I've learned that.
They'll complain about free beer party.
They're going to complain. And I have come to learn, because another common question that I'm getting is this a franchise? No, this is my husband and I. Will we franchise it? Maybe. We've been asked before with other businesses. So we have another location that that we already have, so that we're going to start renovations on that once this is up and running.
Okay.
So yeah, again, the name, just wanted something that it's fun.
Yeah, don't think too much about it.
Yeah.
So that's your plan, or that's what's happened already for Bagel Boutique. But now let's kind of go into, you touched on it a little bit. Talk about like your history of how you got into the food industry. Obviously your family was in forever, but then kind of what you've done locally before this.
Yeah.
Like the history of, your family working with restaurants.
So I grew up I was born into it. My grandparents, my grandfather in particular, came from Greece by himself. He actually started, working for another Greek family in Carlisle, who are amazing people. And he started working there and then saved enough money and bought his first restaurant in Harrisburg. He has told the story many times, and I love listening to it every single time. I think he bought the business for like $20,000.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love those stories.
Yeah.
You can't even do that now. It's
You can't even
unheard of.
I mean, you can't even look at a business for
Right.
like, so, he started it and, went back to Greece, brought my grandmother and had his children. So my father and his siblings were all born here, grew up in the business as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them went to college, but they've all continued with their own businesses, restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
My father and his one brother, well, both brothers at the time had a place in Mechanicsburg called the Paradise,
Okay.
which was like a biker bar in very conservative town of Mechanicsburg. So I remember being a young kid and I remember going there and the things I saw and heard will stay in my mind forever. But it was cool because Brett Michaels, who's a local, grew up in Mechanicsburg, played there. Yes.
Yeah.
So one of his interviews, he's talking about, the Paradise. And then when my parents and my uncles started having kids, they changed it over in 1991 to the Colony House.
Okay.
So I grew up there, but I also grew up at the Keystone, which was on 3rd Street in Harrisburg.
That was the Harrisburg restaurant.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we all worked there, my siblings, my cousins. And as my grandparents got older, they were working less. So my uncle and my father would start splitting time. And then they always had planned to separate. So when we went off to college, my father took the Keystone, my uncle stayed at the Colony House. And we just always helped. Even when I was married with kids, I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
I loved it. I didn't have to work.
Right.
But I would actually beg my dad, like, let me just come in on the weekends.
I think we were talking about this before we started recording as well, about growing up in a family business, because I spent... Did you hear that crow?
Yeah.
Anyways, there was a crow on the roof, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, the growing up in a family business is interesting as a kid too, because you end up doing tasks that otherwise, like, you would not be doing if you just had a regular job.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Yeah.
Until you've worked in a family, especially a family business like in food industry. Like
yeah.
When we were both younger, we were both probably had a very similar upbringing. Like,
oh yeah.
I was outside breaking down boxes, doing things. I think I told you I was crawling in and cleaning out like the underneath the meat cases at our deli.
The dirty jobs.
Yeah.
The jobs nobody wants.
And you don't get paid very well.
No.
That's family business. It's just it's an interesting way to spend your life.
I think other people that have family businesses that aren't the restaurant, like they may bring their kids in and they may do stuff. But when you're in the restaurant business, I mean, my parents were young parents. They were married young. I used to sleep under the prep table, wrapped in an apron. This is no joke. I would bathe and play in the water over lunch in the 3-compartment sink. Times are different, okay? So that would never happen. But it is part of, my history.
It's an interesting way to grow up as a kid.
Yeah.
I remember, so we had, not to spin it on me, but we had at the deli, we had a chip case, chips.
Yeah.
And they would deliver every day fresh chips from the place in Hanover where they make the chips.
Yeah.
But I would stand on a chip can because I couldn't.
The round aluminum chip can.
The old ones.
Yes.
They don't even I don't know if
they don't even make them. Yeah, no.
So my family still has a few of the original Utz chip cans.
That's awesome.
And, but I would stand on them and bag the chips because before you could get them in the store in the regular bags, you got them in the paper. I would shovel the chips into the bag and then you fold them over and seal the bag shut.
Yes.
We'd sell them that way at the deli because that's the way they sold them. They didn't come in a little cellophane bag.
No.
So like it just brings back a lot of awesome memories. So I don't think I would trade that childhood though for like that upbringing for any other way.
I wouldn't. I think, it definitely shaped me into who I am. It is an experience. I always say people should work in some type of customer service, but if you have the chance to work in the restaurant business, it is eye-opening.
Right?
Yeah. And I just continued between both restaurants. I didn't have your typical, like teenage years. My dad expected me to be there. I went off to college and I felt bad leaving because as I got older, I was helping to take the responsibility off of, my parents and being able to help more. And I left college. I left for college. Then I went straight for my master's degree. I was a licensed therapist. I loved what I did. And then my husband was high up, an executive at a big company, and we said, we want to get in the business. At the time, we didn't have the money to buy maybe what we would really want. So our first restaurant was Brick City in 2010, North 2nd Street. The building had squatters, drug dealers. Like, it was just... And at the time, I don't know if it was just me being naive and young. Like, I was like, oh, we got this. We're good. And that's where it started for us. We then moved to Maryland and had a pizza shop. So we really learned how to like make dough for pizza. And at the time that we moved, I was pregnant with my 3rd child, 2 small kids.
Not stress at all.
No stress at all. It was when the riots happened in Baltimore. And I was like, this is... and we were in Federal Hills. So it was like where all the bars are and stuff. So my husband was coming home late. And the owner who sold it to us, so it's the first and only in our portfolio of places that was already an existing business.
Okay.
My husband grew the business about 25%, and he came back and was like, we want it back. And we were like, well, we just moved here. We built this house. And it was just a good financial decision. And so then we were back. And that's Valley Bistro actually came out of... My kids were getting a little older, starting to go to school. And I was like, what am I going to do? I've always been a worker. I want to work. And I'm grateful that I stayed home with my kids for the 9 years that I did. But I was like, what if I just get something small, 7 to 2? Like we can have somebody help us take the kids to school, but then I'll be done by the time, they get off. And my husband found that location because he was in the food business. And we were just renting at the time. Yeah. And it was, it was just half the building. And I remember calling the landlord, who is a good friend of ours now. And once we started the renovations, the first thing we did was we fixed the ceiling and painted it black. And he walked in and he was like, oh, this is horrible. These are young kids. Like, I don't think he didn't know us. You know, he was like, what is this? He called his wife.
What did they do to my building?
What did they do? Called his wife. She came to look at it. And I was like, they just don't see it. I said, trust the process. And he was like, I can't believe what you did here. It's beautiful. Then we bought the whole building.
The second half was the larger dining side.
Yeah. So originally that was for catering.
Right.
So my dad and I, growing up, we had a catering business. I love catering. I love events. I love, the life moments that we got to be a part of when we catered. And so we were trying to grow the business. We're like, let's do catering. And then that blew up. And then as the restaurant side got busier, we were like, we can't keep this just for catering. We need it for seating. I would love to still get back into catering someday. And I'm sure we'll do that with Bagel Boutique, more like the corporate side,
events and
stuff like that. But there is still very much a big desire of mine to have a catering facility.
Okay.
But my kids have helped,
So now you have them involved?
Yeah. So there were days that, like, when we were getting the other restaurants up and running, they were sleeping in the corner.
They have to... Like you did, they have to put in their time. Yeah.
Yeah. And growing up, like my dad, and this is the one thing I learned, is he believed in those employees that people might not get a second chance to, or a second look, or even a thought of hiring. And a lot of kids that I went to school with, they worked there. So, sometimes people look at young kids and they're like, we're not hiring them, but he believed in them, trained them. Some of those kids are still some of my bestest friends to this day. They still, love my father. But there are also, the restaurant business it's a transitional job. Right? It's not, you have your lifelong people that do it, that truly love it. But for the most part, who you're hiring is not going to be with you forever.
Right.
And so we like to, if you work for us, you're part of our family. You're with these people sometimes more than you're with your own family. So part of why, what's your why? Why do we do what we do? Obviously, we think we're good at what we do, right? We love what we do. But it also creates jobs. And we love to help out. I was raised that way. If you have, you give.
Yeah.
And
you don't know what you'll change.
Yeah, you never know. It's like a trickle effect, right? And so growing up, there was this little old lady that used to walk around Mechanicsburg, and we used to give my dad and my uncle at the time, the restaurant that they had, they would give bread, like rolls. Mm-hmm. And she would come every day and ask for the leftover rolls. And my dad would say, well, let me just make you some. She didn't, whatever it was, the rolls were her thing. So we used to save rolls for her. And the ends of the bread, because in our family, you don't waste anything. Mm-hmm. My grandmother used to take the ends of the bread and put them in the yard for the birds.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like anybody can eat it. You just don't throw it in the trash.
Right.
Right? And so I was like, why are you saving the end? And he was like, she would come every day and knock on the back door. And one day she just stopped showing up. And it like, it's like, it was a part of our everyday.
Yeah.
And so it was just great because you think you're just a restaurateur and some people look down on that. But you really do have an impact on your community. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of high school kids right now from Cumberland Valley that are waiting to work.
Yeah.
And, some people are like, well, they're young. They've never worked.
Exactly.
Give them to me.
That's
who I want.
First experience.
Yeah.
So make it.
And I want it to be a good experience.
You can leave an impact on
them,
man. Yeah.
And I have kids. The younger ones, not really. But 2 years ago, my older daughter wanted a new iPad. Mm-hmm. I could have bought her the new iPad. It wasn't a necessity.
Right.
She came in and she bussed tables. She's my kid, so nobody can say anything about labor laws, okay? So let's just make it. So the girls were making really good tips. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't even give her that full amount. Because if I did, she could afford that iPad in 2 or 3 shifts. Mm-hmm. So I gave her a very small cut because I wanted her to realize that it takes a lot of hard work to get the things that you want. And so that's what we instill in our kids. Anything you put your mind to, you can do it. Mm-hmm. If you have the vision to be successful, it's going to happen, but it's hard work.
Yeah.
And I want my kids to understand, kids today are very privileged. It's not, we're not growing up where like my grandparents came as immigrants or even my father trying to still, that generation.
Yeah. I'm not sure of your kids' age. Mine are 9 and 7. And, just the access to things they have now that we didn't even have when we were younger is mind-blowing, and it's
crazy.
But I'm sure every generation says that about the next generation. They do. And when my kids are my age, they're going to say, oh, my kids are spoiled, whatever. It's perpetual.
Well,
but
as parents,
I think you still need to do what you're doing. And what I try to do with my kids is like, you have to work.
Yeah.
Like you got to work a little bit.
Yeah. And I have no shame in saying, yes, do my kids yes, they do. They're great kids. My husband and I have raised them. That's the one thing. Like you stay humble, you work hard, but we're in 2024, and they
still got to be kids.
And they still have to be kids. So we just tell them all the time, like, this doesn't come easy. You have to work. So whatever it is that you do, even as kids now, school first, right? Always school first. But our kids are all into athletics. Whatever it is you do it to the best. Mm-hmm. When you do your homework, write your name as neatly. Like don't, always, it's a reflection of who you are. Mm-hmm. So just work hard, do your best. And when you're capable, help others.
Yeah.
That's what life is about.
I think where you hit on with the sports thing it's a topical thing for me recently, just because I have my older daughter is stuck between 2 sports right now, but she already signed up for the one I think she wants to not continue doing.
Yeah.
But we told her the same deal, kind of like you need to, like you committed to this.
Yeah.
So you need to finish that out, and then you can start your other sport the next season.
I think
those kind of things, it's simple values. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's not like you're not driving your kids to the bone to get these things done. But at the same time, you're letting them be kids, but then you're also teaching them the value of, okay, well, you want something, figure out a way to go out and make it happen, go get that thing.
Absolutely. People say, are you going to let your kids work in the business? And I'll say the same thing that my father told me. I don't want you working in this business, right? Because you're married to it's if you're a good restaurant owner, you are there all the time. It's a struggle because at our previous restaurant, we had no life. I felt like a single parent a lot of the time. And so we said with this new place, we need to just start trusting our employees. And we do, because there has to be a balance of work and family. I mean, my oldest daughter said to me a couple of months ago, like, in 5 years, I graduate. And I'm like, whoa, time flies. It is it's something as I get older, I'm more emotional about, but it's true. So yes, can they work in the restaurant? Absolutely. I think one in particular likes it, and I think my son could possibly take over one day. I'll never tell him no, but I would hope,
right.
It's a hard life. But back to your point about your kids getting into athletics and your daughter kind of wanting to maybe pick the other sport instead of the one she signed up for. We've had the same thing. And all I say is, you've signed up, finish it out.
You have to.
And it relates to the restaurant in that the biggest struggle we have all the time is employees. And it's so quick, especially now, especially after COVID. Everyone is struggling. Everyone is still trying to find.
It's every industry too. It's labor. That's like the number one complaint.
Yes. So you can quit and go 10 minutes later and have another job. So I think one of the things I struggle with the most is, if I hire you, I invest in you, I trust in you, and I would just hope that it might not be for you, and that's fine. But the common courtesy to say hey, this isn't going to work.
Right.
No, instead the mentality, it seems to be I'm just done. I'm quitting
on the spot,
and I'm out. So it's something that I think, and we'll continue to deal with.
I mean, and I think we're starting to come out of that a little bit.
Yeah.
It was, I think, worse a year or two ago.
Sure.
Because wages started to, skyrocket and inflate like everything else. But I think you're going to start to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, it ebbs and flows with.
And that's life.
Time. So
it's all the time.
All right. So let's get away from the restaurants and get away from that. We'll wrap up on a couple last questions. Just what does it mean for you to be in Central PA? You've been obviously outside of Central PA as well.
Yeah.
You grew up here, temporarily went outside of the area, and now you're back. What's it just mean to be a business owner and provide opportunities like that and just provide for the community, both with basketball? I know you saw Dennis brought you in earlier, but just being involved in the community, being a business owner in Central PA, just what's that mean to you?
I remember when I was 21 years old, I told my father I was leaving this area and I'm never coming back.
It's the traditional, I'm out.
I'm out. And, I had worked in the business, and then I went to college, and I moved to Philadelphia to get my master's degree. And I just love the whole city feel. It's where I met my husband. And I was like, this is great. And then when we started, we got married and settled down, I was like, Mechanicsburg is a really good place to raise a family. It was a little bit of a culture shock for my husband, Steve.
Because he's from even bigger city.
Born in the Bronx, raised in North Jersey, literally over the bridge. So, he played football, went to a D1 school out of New Jersey. So it was a little bit of a culture shock for him. But now if you ask him, when he goes back to visit my in-laws, he's like, how did I live here?
Yeah.
So being a business owner and coming, I love this area. I love the people. I love the kids, that my kids are around. The one thing we always do is give back to the schools or, donate in any way we can. And the one thing that I hold true with every business we've ever had has been, we are nothing without the support of our community. And I don't care if you come into my restaurant every day and buy just a coffee, or you come in and place an order for all of the people in your business, or place a large catering order. The person that walks in that door that buys just a coffee is just as important as someone that comes in and places a large order. The amount of that coffee still adds up every day. And because we are genuine in what we do and truly love it, we actually love just seeing. You could come in and just say hi to us and not buy anything. You could come in and ask me for a cup of water or to use my bathroom, and I will say absolutely, So I think it's part of how I was raised, but it's also the example that I want to be, not just to my own kids, but for the kids that work for me. We have had so many employees that we've helped. And I'm not saying this to boast.
Right.
I'm just saying the opportunity that I have to own and run a business has helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so we are so close with a lot of the employees. Sure, you have one or two that, you won't forget because of how things happen.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you ask a lot of the people that have worked for us, they will say like they have helped me in some way or another.
Yeah. I mean, I think the impact of that is unknown sometimes too. So like, obviously, there's always this is my first job. You kind of set them on a professional path, whether it's in the food industry or they just use that as a stepping stone out of high school to get, a job and start making money. And then there's the other things that you don't realize, like think people need things that they won't tell you.
Yeah.
But then a job or something that's just structured like that fulfills. And they might never tell you those things, but you're providing a lot of unknown benefits as well to the area.
I've written a lot of letters of recommendation. I have had kids write reports about me. I've been interviewed. There is a lot of pressure these days as parents, not just as moms, as parents, to be able to work. Now it's both parents typically working, still having your kids, maintaining your home. We have to be really good at multitasking. And so when a girl came to me and told me how I was this inspiration to her, I'm sitting here saying, this is just my normal everyday, right? But you don't realize as business owners, even as employees, right? Even here, what you do, eyes are on you all the time. And sometimes you're just living your day to day, but you truly are an example and inspiring other people. Is it something that I wake up every day saying like, this is my goal for today? No.
Right.
But when you're a good person and a good operator,
I don't think you have to think about it that way too.
Right.
I think it's just something that is almost it's second nature to you then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I was raised that way.
Yeah.
I've had the examples set before me, and it's just something I want to continue.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Do you want to have any last like parting words on Bagel Boutique or just anything new that you want to get out there about that before we wrap up?
I will say the design of this place, although small, is amazing. It's, I think, my favorite by far.
Well, we're going to have to get loaded up on some bagels from you now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to try it the other way too, where you said you scoop it out.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I've never...
I'm still working on the menu. We're still kind of finalizing. Yeah. I think what's going to be different about this place is previous restaurants, we've done specials for the week. I think we're going to do more like specials of the month or flavor of the month, something like that. And a rotating menu. So I think we'll have like our common, core sandwiches, salads. But I'm always researching. I'm always playing around with things. So, and of course, we're always changing with the holiday, right? So like we'll do different things for different times of year. But we have some great recipes, really cool things, using great products, and working on our second location.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You didn't waste too much time either.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But you can't. You're not going to
sometimes,
let the dust settle.
Yeah. It's not even that. And I used to say that operating and owning more than one restaurant is kind of crazy. But the one thing we've learned is that we can trust people. You put the basics down, you lay the foundation, and this is the first where we have a line of people waiting to work for us.
Okay.
And
once you systemize it too, you can scale it easier. So it's not like, I'm sure, I don't know, because I'm not in your shoes, but I'm sure once you've done a couple and you start to systemize it, you realize like, okay, now I can scale quicker because I know the process.
You get older and wiser. And, we've had a lot of restaurants and we've learned everything along the way. We're still learning. We're still going to learn.
Yeah.
But this property came up. It's a perfect location. So we wanted to jump on it. And the thing about this is, yes, we will have tables and chairs, but it's very much a takeout deli style. Everything will be wrapped to go, to go containers. We do have outdoor seating. It is on the main road.
You said wrap to go. Are you going to like sandwiches and butcher paper kind of style?
Yes. Oh yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I grew up with that. So
yes.
Like, when there's a thing.
Yes.
This will be my last statement. When you have a sandwich and it's butcher paper wrapped with like a scotch tape to seal it, like that sandwich is, it's going to be good.
Well, yeah,
You can
because
tell.
you don't want it to get soggy, right? So
Right.
there's certain products, even like takeout boxes. So, this is where I think I differ a little bit. And my father and I are, he had the same restaurant, and there was a fire a few years ago, but had it not happened, he would still have the orange booths, and like nothing had changed.
Like stuck in the 70s.
Yeah, stuck in the 70s. And it was part of what made it what it was.
Yeah.
But I think where I kind of differ from that is my husband and I would take the chances, and people question us. It has worked out so far because we believe in it, but we take the chances. We're always changing, and we have some great things coming. We're excited to be open. We know a lot of our previous customers have reached out to us. The community is excited. We're excited to, offer something different.
Yeah.
And just be up and running again. We miss it. I might say something else in 2 months because it's going to be a little. It's going to be a little chaotic. But again, no matter how good you are at owning and operating a restaurant, there's the first couple of weeks are always critical.
Yeah.
And I used to worry about the reviews. Right. Sometimes they're out of your control, and those of us that are in the restaurant business say, "Oh, those reviews." Like people don't know, and if you have a chain or a franchise, people aren't as quick to say something, but we don't have the backing of a big corporation. Right. So I always say, just keep in mind, like we're small business owners and do we make mistakes? Absolutely. Give us the opportunity to make it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only thing anyone can ask for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're excited and good things coming.
Well, we're excited, and I'm excited to get some. I'm hungry now.
Yes. We should do a taste testing.
Between talking about the bagels and then talking about like deli sandwiches.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I want a big deli sandwich, butcher paper wrap. Like I need that.
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to be awesome.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're definitely excited. Our team will be getting some bagels here soon. So
awesome.
I'm pumped.
Great.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.